Forget gurus. Forget anyone claiming to be an online business expert without going through the challenges of entrepreneurship themselves. The Real Money, Real Business podcast is here to prove the best insights in online business comes from your fellow online business builders. We dig into stories of entrepreneurs selling their business on the Empire Flippers marketplace so that you can learn how they made their business profitable, how they overcame obstacles, and what lessons they learned in their online journey. If you want to take your business and your knowledge to the next level, you've come to the right podcast. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, Sarah here with another great business to discuss on this episode of the Real Money, Real Business podcast. Today's guest is John, and he's selling his Amazon FBA business on the Empire Flippers marketplace. Welcome to the show, John. How you doing today?
Hey, I'm good, thank you. Yeah, good to get a chance to have a chat with you.
Yeah, it's really great to have you here. I'm definitely looking forward to talking a bit more about your business. Before we dive in, let's go over a brief summary of this business. So this is an Amazon FBA business in the baby niche, created in July 2017. The average monthly revenue of the business is $87,874, and it has an average of $12,577 per month in net profit, and that is based on a 12-month pricing period. Included in the sale of the business are listing transfer of 4 SKUs, domain and all site content files, trademark, social media accounts, SOPs, design patent, and an email list. For everyone listening, you can visit empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for listing number 47496 to learn more about the business or to unlock the listing to start your due diligence if you're interested in purchasing. Now that I've given a general overview of the business, let's dig into the interview. So, John, can you tell me a little bit about your background in building and running online businesses?
Yeah, sure. So I've had a background in business development quite a long time. So prior to being involved in this, I've worked for banks and small businesses as a contractor, as a consultant, helping them develop their own businesses. So it's kind of a logical thing for me to want to be involved in developing my own business. And to cut a story short, I had an opportunity to exit where I was before. And a friend of mine who was actually doing this quite successfully as an Amazon FBA seller previously, we had a conversation about it, and basically he said, you're just going to be really well suited to this. So that's kind of where all this started for me, and the idea of doing something for myself and having control over my own destiny was quite exciting. And yeah, that's kind of really where this came from.
Very cool. You know, I'm curious, it sounds like, so your friend sold you on the power of FBA, and now that you're in FBA, you know, what have you discovered for yourself about this kind of the power of this business model? And do you think that this business model is, you know, suitable or good for people interested in online business?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is a wonderful business opportunity and a wonderful area to be able to make a living from, because you have so much control over what happens. It's so different working for yourself and seeing the benefits of what you do rather than, you know, working for somebody else. And I think what's so exciting about, you know, running an FBA business or something similar to this, you know, the flexibility that comes with it. And there isn't, you know, a stereotypical person this suits. It can suit literally anybody. I'll talk a lot about return on investment when people ask me about Amazon FBA. This is just such a high ROI or return on investment way of, you know, running a business. Not just in terms of you can make a nice, almost passive income from doing this. The return on investment for your time versus your lifestyle and everything that comes with it is incredible. So it's hugely exciting. And yeah, anybody can do this, you know, if they put their mind to it.
Yeah, I love that, you know, what you just said about this kind of suits everybody. You know, it's very flexible. Yeah, that's a pretty cool picture of FBA, so thank you. Now, so, you know, what made you choose this niche, the baby niche, for this business?
Okay, so it's about picking winners and letting numbers and the process guide you. A lot of people, when they get involved in online business, it's quite often driven by something they're already interested in, and that can be very successful. But sometimes it can also be a major drawback to actually go with something that you are, you know, naturally drawn to, because it doesn't necessarily make the best business opportunity. And my approach to this and other businesses has been about letting the process, letting the guide and the numbers and things guide you as to what the right opportunity is. So actually I got into this through quite simply having a short list of different opportunities and weighing them all up. And that's how I ended up in this niche. It was the one that stood out as the best opportunity. for me at the given time. Plus, it's something that I'm interested in. So actually, it was a win-win on both sides for me.
Oh, very cool. Well, okay, so you've established a pretty solid business and one that you've been interested working in. Now, why are you selling the business now instead of, say, keeping it and growing it?
Okay, the main reason for doing this is that I have other business interests as well and ventures that I'm involved in. And the only reason I'm looking to sell this is to use the cash flow to help me move these others on, and no other reason at all. It's a really good business and it does very well and it's growing all the time, but it's a good time for me to exit and use that cash flow elsewhere.
Okay. Would you say there's anything you learned from this business that you'd apply to future sites or businesses? What did you learn from building this that just seemed to really work for you?
I'll come back to what I think touched on a bit earlier about return on investment and process. I think Amazon FBA, like so many other things, is something that the more you I always think about cost versus value and return on investment. And I've really realized that if you focus on the right areas and you don't try to overcomplicate things, don't get too distracted by what's going on everywhere else, that focus allows you to achieve so many more things than you can if you're constantly dashing around trying to grab at too many things at the same time. And building a good, solid foundation, which is what I believe I've done with this brand, just lays a platform where you almost have unlimited potential to grow. And I would 100% apply those same pieces of logic to any other business that I do in the future.
Absolutely. That's great advice. It's funny because so many FBA sellers tell me something similar to what you're saying. It's like that focus is so important and it's so easy to get shiny object syndrome, I think, when building an FBA business. So,
but you are motivated as well because it's something that you own, and you become incredibly passionate about what you're doing. And because you can see the end result is directly benefiting you, then that focus it just naturally happens. You don't really have to try to get the focus. It's just there because, it's amazing how it happened.
That's awesome. Of course, now, flip side here, was there anything that you tried with this business that, say, didn't work?
I actually find this a really interesting topic. I spoke to a few people about this before. My view on some of these things is just because you try something doesn't mean that it wasn't worth doing, because we learn and improve by trying things. And yes, there are things that I've tried that haven't necessarily been successful, but what they've done is they've then taught me to use those learnings and point them in different directions. So I think a lot of people might raise is something like Amazon pay-per-click advertising. It's a great raising the profile, getting your products out there in front of the right people, but it doesn't always work. And the key thing to do is to try these things out, but if it's not working, don't just blindly stick to it. Keep looking at ways to optimize, or sometimes just turn it off. And I've certainly been through that with some of the products here. It works with some and not with others, but that's just a learning. So that's probably the main thing that I would say hasn't always been a success, but it's led to me making those products successful in different ways by looking at the outputs.
So it sounds like you've been through quite a journey with this business and you've had ups and downs. You've learned a lot of things along the way. Would you say there's anything that you wish you had known when you'd gotten started? And maybe that might be good advice for our listeners who are trying to get started as well.
I tell you what, I wish I'd known about doing it earlier. It sounds silly, but I wish I'd done this years ago. It's easily the best way that I've come across anywhere of having a lifestyle business that generates high amounts of revenue and good amounts of profit. There's just nothing out there that competes. That's probably the best thing I could say to anyone. If you're thinking about doing this, do it, because it is amazing.
Great. That's awesome advice. So a bit of a different subject here. Can you describe the process of getting your inventory to Amazon? I know you're kind of operating in a couple different regions here, so just walk me through that and what that looks like.
Okay, so all our inventory is manufactured overseas, so it's made in China, and we import all the products into the UK. And because I sell on all the different European marketplaces, the stock just gets moved by Amazon between the warehouses in the different European countries. So actually, it's really simple. I just need to send one shipment and that shipment then gets put into their warehouses, and then it will actually sell in the UK or Germany, France, Italy, wherever, without it me necessarily having to move it on anywhere myself. So yeah, it's really, really simple. They make it so easy for you to do it. Yeah, it's very easy. You don't have to be involved in doing anything. It's not like self-fulfillment where you have to take customer orders or ship things yourselves. Amazon do it all through their FBA warehouses.
Oh, brilliant. Very cool that you've got that set up. All right, so what are you currently doing in terms of marketing for the business?
Okay, so I do a bit of Amazon sponsored adverts, so pay-per-click advertising. I do a bit of social media. I have a VA that works part-time on this business with me. But I don't really need to do an awful lot else. The brand is very well known, quite well recognised. It's one of the bigger brands of its type on Amazon. We've just found that it hasn't been necessary to spend a lot of money on external advertising. We don't even need to do special Amazon promos or lightning deals or things like that because they're not necessary. It's a very well-established brand. So I always look at what's the return on the spend that I put on advertising, and if the numbers don't tally up, then I don't do it.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty solid advice. So if you were to keep this business, what are some ways that you would try to grow it?
So, I would definitely be looking to expand the other EU countries. So the current setup of the business is incredibly well set up in the UK and Germany at the moment, sells very well. But there are other marketplaces where the products are live and active, where there's huge growth potential, and that would be the first place that I'd start looking. The platform's there for them, so the listings are there, and the beauty of the whole new global review system, which is a fantastic addition to what Amazon now do, means that the products where you have reviews in the UK or Germany or France, they all get added together and you now get them shown in all the countries. So whereas before, if you wanted to go and sell in Spain, or even if you wanted to sell in the US, all the reviews are visible so that you get that instant credibility that was not there before. So that makes the EU expansion so much easier to do than it ever used to. So that would be my first area, and I don't think it would be really difficult to do it. I'd also be looking at the US expansion. These products are perfectly well suited for the US. There's a huge market for them. I already know that it's possible because I've done the analysis. And I'd also be giving some thought to offline retail as well. Again, the brand is well known, it's got a loyal customer base, and I think it would be a good fit if someone wanted to look at offline retail in high street as well. So there's lots of areas that you could look into with a brand like this.
Yeah, and then I want to make sure I'm not missing anything here. I know this business had some invitations from Amazon or offered enrollment into a couple different programs. Would you expand a little bit more on that?
Yeah, so there are a number of programs that Amazon run for what they classify as the well-known high-revenue, high-potential brands. So they've got programs like Amazon Launchpad. They've got something called the 360 program now. There's several of these, and they're invite-only initiatives. And we've been approached directly by Amazon to say, would we be interested in doing these? You have to go through an interview process and tick all the different boxes to be invited. So those actually are there on the table at the moment. We just haven't taken them up yet. Really, because I'm waiting to see what happens here with looking to sell the business. But I take that as a real positive because, it's a sign that I must be doing something right if Amazon actually want to proactively reach out and say, hey, would you like to do this with us? So there's a few things on the table at the moment that I take a lot of positives away from.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought that was an interesting note on this business, and I want to make sure people, maybe didn't miss one of those finer details. A lot of opportunities, a lot of good stuff happening. Now, of course, always have to cover both sides of the story. So what would you say are the biggest risks with the business that a buyer should be aware of?
Okay, the first thing I would say, and this is within your own control as well, is not doing anything stupid. It's a fantastic business opportunity, but don't do things crazy. Don't risk your Amazon account by doing things that you're not meant to be doing. Play by the rules and do things properly. And as long as you do that, the risks are very low. I think you can easily cause your own problems by doing the wrong things. And that's what we've definitely stayed away from here. This brand was built very carefully to get to this position so that it was scalable out, but also doing it in the right way. So, yeah, I think as long as you don't do silly things, the risks are very low for running an FBA business. And you've got a lot of things in place that protect you as well. So, we have a design patent, we have trademarks, we're enrolled in the transparency project with Amazon. So a lot of things that other people might perceive as risks, we've proactively done work to try and protect ourselves from things outside of our control. So, yeah.
Okay. Now, of course, you got into this a little bit earlier, but want to dig into it a bit more. Can you describe the amount and type of work you're doing on this business for maintenance?
Yeah, sure. So there's two parts to this. So I employ a VA, virtual assistant, who spends about half time working on this brand. So they do the vast majority of the daily work. So they do the customer support, they look at performance, they look at stock levels, all the things that can be easily documented into SOPs, and they provide that information, and that gives me a very good sort of helicopter view of what's going on with the business, so that myself as an individual can then spend my time on the things that are most important for me and my experience level. So that's ensuring I get the right amount of inventory in, doing accounting, and dealing with strategy and growth. So I spend probably anywhere sort of 10, 15 hours a week on this myself, and then VA works about 20 hours, about half time. But the business pretty much runs itself. I can go on holiday and not worry about it because I know that it's been set up and it will run very well on its own with minimal involvement. And that's a great position to be in.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, okay. So, would you say there's, say, skills or requirements for someone not familiar with this niche or business model?
Specific skills? I think there are just general skills that people find make people good at doing this. Being organised and disciplined and customer focused. They're all things that will help you when you do this. Amazon knowledge is always going to be beneficial, but the great thing is that you can do this with no knowledge of Amazon because there is so much information out there on Amazon and how to do it. There's free webinars, there's free courses. If you want to start from scratch, or there's paid for courses, there's masterminds, there's various things you can be involved in. So it's not a necessity, and it's actually pretty quick and easy to learn these things. And because the business is very well documented and SOP'd and there's a VA, that takes a lot of the pain out of it and takes away the necessity to have a set of skills. So, yeah, that's my view on it.
Perfect. Yeah, you mentioned courses and stuff, and I get to that after a couple questions. Love to hear if you have any courses you'd like. But, first, just a few roundup questions here. Okay, so how much support are you offering buyers?
I can be pretty flexible here. Whatever happens, a full handover would be done. As I said before, a lot of this is already documented. I would be happy to, provide support for a couple of months. It's something that we can negotiate. That can be Skype calls, we can emails, WhatsApp, whatever the best way is. So I can be pretty flexible on that. Yeah, but it will be whatever's necessary to make this happen.
Great. Would you commit to a non-compete?
Yeah, no problem at all with that.
Awesome. Are you open to something like an earn-out?
I'd prefer not to, purely because of the reason for selling is to get the cash to invest in some other things that I'm working on. Again, it's something that I'm happy to discuss, but it wouldn't be my preference. But yeah, I'll never take everything off the table.
Okay. Is there anyone who inspired you while building this business that our listeners might like as well? So that might be a certain course, it might be a podcast host, a certain Facebook community, etc. Yeah, anything that you found really helpful that might help our listeners?
Okay. There's two big ones that I think are really valuable here. So I actually did a course on Amazon to start with. I was part of what's called the Amazing Selling Machine. Loads of people will probably have heard about it. So I did that sort of 3 years ago, and it's a really good course that introduces you into everything to do with Amazon. So that's one that I know a lot of people who have done. But I'm a really big fan of a guy called Ben Cummings and a guy called Tryon, who they work together. They do something called the Elevated E-commerce podcast. And they've also got paid for courses that they do as well. They do a brilliant weekly podcast, which anyone that's interested in e-commerce, online selling, I'd highly recommend listening to that. It's very, very good. And it also points you in different directions as well, so things you can learn about. The other thing I'd also say, there are some really good books out there. I've really got into ebooks through this and sort of self-development. Anyone that is thinking about taking up running a business for themselves, there's a few here that are really worth getting into. One of them is called The E-Myth by a guy called Michael E. Gerber. It's quite an old book, but it's a brilliant book on anyone that's interested in being an entrepreneur. And then you've got the normal ones, the How to Win Friends and Influence People. And so, yeah, that would be sort of my influences that have really, really helped.
Very cool. I love getting a sense of what people are listening to and what has shaped them as an entrepreneur. So that's cool. I'm actually taking notes on that now. Okay, so kind of similar vein here. Would you say there's any software tools that helped you while running this business that might be helpful for our listeners as well?
Yeah, there's lots of software out there. I mean, the best ones that I found, I extensively use something called Manage by Stats, which is something that gives you really good visibility of everything that's going on across your Amazon accounts. So that's a good one for statistics, looking at your sales, looking at, how well your products are performing. There's another tool called Helium 10, which is quite similar, but it allows you to go into a lot more detail and look at markets and look at product opportunities. So there are loads and loads of tools out there, but those are the two that I probably use the most.
Awesome. I think you hinted at this one earlier, but I'd still love to hear your thoughts on it. What would you say drove you and motivated you while having this business?
I like having the ability to control my own destiny, and have something that was mine, and, I knew that everything that I'm doing is, I have control over. It's just so different than working for somebody else, and so much more rewarding. It's infinitely more rewarding doing something for yourself than it is doing it for somebody else. I could never go back and work for somebody else again, having done this. Yeah, the whole work-life balance thing is incredible. I love sport. I can do this business and I can then go, I'm going to go and play golf twice a week, which I do, or play football or go and do different things because I've got this wonderful business that I work in with flexibility, and I can pick and choose what I do and when I do it. You just can't beat that. There's nothing like it.
Oh, that's awesome. And I think you'll have a lot of listeners jealous that you get to golf and play sports twice a week. Hey, that's cool.
Well, anybody can be in this position.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's nothing to stop somebody from doing this.
Perfect. Well, you've given them a lot of great inspiration throughout this interview, so I'm sure you're going to really be inspiring people when they're done listening to this. Well, so John, we've got a pretty interesting, obviously quite a different time period we're going through right now with coronavirus, and everyone's business is being affected in a different way. Can you tell me a little bit about how your business is doing right now? Has it been labeled an essential product? And just kind of walk me through how your business is faring during this time period.
I'm really glad you asked, actually, because we're actually not affected by this. We're quite fortunate that because of the niche we're in, all of the products that are part of this brand are actually classified as essential by Amazon. So we're not seeing any negative impact currently. So we've still got next day prime delivery. I can still create shipments. I can still get stock into Amazon and fulfill it as if it was a normal product. So we've not seen the downfall that maybe some other areas have experienced. We've also seen some growth due to the amount of people that are now working from home. So I've seen quite a big uplift on one of the products in particular, which is selling a lot more than it was, a few weeks ago. And I think a lot of that is just down to the profile of the types of customers we've got. They're working from home and they're particularly after these types of products. So it's actually been very good for us. And I see that as being good for now, but it's also really good for the long term as well, because we're continuing to grow and sort of build a reputation and brand awareness. And I think we're going to see a lot of things changing in Amazon over the coming sort of 2, 3, 4, 6, 12 months, where there's a lot of people now who are new Amazon shoppers that were not Amazon shoppers before because they can't go and buy things in the shops anymore and go into high street. So I think, brands like ourselves, we're going to actually see quite a lot of positives out the back of this. I expect to see continued growth for us and just generally on Amazon over the coming sort of months to years. So it's a good time to be a seller on Amazon.
Yeah, absolutely. And, how great it is that you have a business in a niche that is more or less like not affected by this and more recession proof. So this is really solid. Definitely a value add for your business in this time period. Well, so final wrap up question here, and it's definitely one of my favorite ones. Putting yourself in the shoes of a buyer, why do you think this is a business worth buying?
I think because the brand is perfect for expansion now. Because a lot of the hard work's already been done. It has a reputation, it has great products, it has incredible customer loyalty, and those foundations mean that the growth into the other areas is so much easier than doing something from scratch. The learnings have already been done, on behalf of whoever takes this on. We have amazing suppliers that we work with. The business is fully documented, and it's just growing all the time. This is a business, honestly, it could easily be doubled in size because everything's there. It's just, getting the right person to come in and want to take it on and take advantage of what's already been done. It's got a perfect history and it's just ready for somebody else to take it to the next level.
Awesome. Well, John, it's so cool what you've put together. Like you said, this is just a solid business and it's, poised for some really great things. I've really enjoyed this conversation today. Definitely looking forward to seeing how things play out for you in the deal. And just thanks for giving me some of your time.
Hey, you're more than welcome. It's been lovely to talk to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, all right, for everyone listening out there, thanks for tuning in. To check out more details on this business or to unlock the listing, visit empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for listing number 47496. If you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook, click the link in the description to go straight to the listing. By unlocking listing, you'll be given everything you need to know about the business and can start your due diligence. Until next time.